Hello, hello, hello. My name is Guerdah Felix, and I have the pleasure today to have a conversation with my friend Melanie Taddeo. Melanie has started a new venture, something that is exciting not only for her, but also for the people that she is called to serve. So I have some questions for Melanie to have us understand what exactly she is planning to do. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
I'm great, Gerda. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about this initiative, what exactly it is.
Thanks for asking. Gaining Vision 2020 is a new, I'm going to say, undertaking, something that I've been passionate about wanting to do for a number of years. As you know, my background is diverse. I have my background as a special education teacher, but I've always been passionate about inclusion. I have my charity, Connect for Life, where I help individuals with disabilities access education and training programs. And through this work, I have been able to see the barriers and challenges that people with disabilities face when it comes to inclusion. Now, of course, this is focused in Canada. I have noticed that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk about background, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and the ability piece is the last one people mention. And I understand because, people figure it doesn't really relate to me. But in this global market, did you know that there is 7 billion people in this world and 1 billion of them have a disability?
Wow. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, so Gaining Vision 2020 is a consulting company that I've started where we help businesses, schools, and organizations understand the importance and benefits and values of hiring people with disabilities to help their company become inclusive from a disability and accessibility lens. So what does that mean? Well, it means that companies, schools, and organizations across the globe have an opportunity to receive consultations, education, trainings, workshops, as well as helping them develop plans by yours truly to help them develop a more inclusive culture in the workplace.
Wow, I love the sound of that. Gaining Vision 2020. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Why 2020?
Well, okay, so it's twofold. So of course, we know when we talk about our eyesight being checked, you have 2020 vision, oh, you have really good eyesight. Well, for myself, who has really bad eyesight, that's not a possibility. But we always say 2020 is hindsight when you think about it. Things after they've happened, you always look back. But I've discovered, despite having lack of eyesight, I have very big vision. And that's the first piece. The second piece is I came up with the idea in 2020.
Okay, well said. Thank you. Now, what is the big why, Melanie?
So as I mentioned, I've been working in Canada for over 20 years in this area, and a lot of advances have been made. A lot, let's face it. When I first lost my eyesight 27 years ago, there was a lot more barriers than there are today. Canada has implemented the AODA, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the Accessible Canada Act, that has standards and regulations to help Canada become more inclusive and more accessible for people with disabilities. So Canada's doing pretty good. We still have a long way to go to be fully inclusive, but I've watched what's happened here and I've been inspired to say, this is great, but let's really get to the root of how can we help others that aren't necessarily impacted by disability see the benefits and values of working alongside with individuals with disabilities, because I feel there's still a stigma and a fear there, some misconceptions. And as I did my research, because Canada has a lot of people doing this work, I discovered, and I'm going to just throw a few facts, stats out there for you, Guerdah. I was looking at all the countries that were really signed up and have committed to the United Nations Convention for Persons with Disabilities Act. So really who said, yes, we think this is important. We're going to participate. We're committed to helping this happen in our country. The US obviously is 10 times the size of Canada in population. They have 61 million people with disabilities. Canada, we have over 6 million people with disabilities. South Africa has 3 million people with disabilities. Can you imagine the amount of people living in a country that isn't as inclusive, that there are such gaps of programs, services, and possibilities for people to better their lives? So I am feeling there's great opportunity for me to share my experience and expertise, as well as my lived experiences, with others so that they can learn and grow. I'm not saying I'm going to be able to change the world just by myself, but if I share what I do know and what's possible, who's saying that other people can't join my vision and help it come to life on a global stage?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, can you paint us a picture? What is an inclusive world look like to you?
So really, truly for me, it's every person, no matter how they identify, based on gender, race, background, religion, ability, sexual orientation, comes together, has a say. I like to say it's like a party, Guerdah. Everybody's invited. Everybody has a seat at the table and they're able to share their thoughts, ideas, and beliefs and are accepted just as they are. There's no need to fit into a box. There's no need to be afraid of offending. Obviously, they're just heard, seen, and valued just who they are. That would be inclusive.
Okay, thank you. Tell us who is your target market?
So right now I focused on South Africa, and I tell you, it has been the most amazing experience so far. So again, as I mentioned, in South Africa, 3 million people with disabilities. And as I was trying to educate myself, because I don't claim to be an expert in South Africa, in fact, I knew nothing when I started, I reached out with a lot of focusing first on organizations and schools for people with disabilities, because I wanted to talk to those living with disability to understand where the gaps and challenges were and what some of the successes were. And everybody's been open and willing to have conversations. They've taught me so very much. So in South Africa, there's 9 provinces, and each province has different programs and services. So similar to Canada, how we have all our provinces and territories. But what I discovered is every province, I guess similar to Canada, has their own Department of Education, because again, being a passionate educator, I started there. And I had conversations with many of the different departments of education. And unlike Canada, they have many special schools specifically for individuals with disabilities, learners with disabilities. And I've learned a lot about their education system from the individuals themselves about some of the challenges they're facing, the lack of programs after they graduate from school, about getting employed. And I then talked to the educators. I also talked with the government officials and the employers. I've had some really great conversations. I'm trying to understand what happens to people with disabilities after they leave school. Why are they not being hired, or why are they being put into certain boxes of they can only do this instead of that? And again, that happens everywhere in the world, let's face it. And I realized it's because we are still living with that misconception that people with disabilities are less than. And this is a global conversation, not just for South Africa, but it's been eye-opening for me to learn about how forward a lot of the people there have been and proactive they've been in trying to do the work. However, they don't have the resources. And I thought, what a great opportunity for me to go help share my knowledge and be part of the solution, part of the movement to move forward in making a more inclusive environment. As I mentioned, it's just a starting point. Lots of opportunities for us to collaborate, work together, and really make change. So that's my first target market. But of course, I'm open to doing work here in Canada and the US as well. And the sky's the limit, Guerdah. Let's see what the future holds.
Absolutely. The sky is the limit. And also our imagination. And I'm glad to see that you have big, big vision.
Definitely.
What are the services that you offer, Melanie?
Okay, so let's start with the consulting. Obviously, helping develop accessibility plans for a company, what that looks like, how to provide proper accommodations for individuals with disabilities from the recruitment stage right through to hiring them and getting them set up. I also offer diversity and inclusion plans and standards, policy development, because let's face it, yes, when we talk about diversity, that is a big conversation, but how to put a plan in place that's easy to follow and implement and show accountability. Because again, it's great to have something on paper, but actually bringing it to action. So I help them with that. I also can help with coaching for individuals with disabilities once they're in a company, making sure that there is open dialogue with the management and the individual employee. But then, of course, workshops and training sessions for management, for employees, anybody that's supervising, just so they understand the big picture of inclusion and what that looks like. So the employee doesn't feel like they're on their own in a big pond without the support. Making sure I'm giving them what they need to all be successful, because that's the goal, is everybody working together to create a culture for their company of inclusion.
Yes, wow. That is definitely a big undertaking. So how can people get in touch with you? Because now that we've heard all the great work that you are doing and that you are going to continue everywhere that you've set your vision on, that you are going to continue to do, how can we get in touch with you?
Great question. So my website is gainingvision2020.com. And of course, email is on the website, or it's gainingvision2020@gmail.com. And of course, I'm on all the social media platforms, of course, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Please check me out, connect. I love having conversations. I've had so many Zoom calls over the last 2 months, zooming in and out of South Africa, in and out of the States. It's been a pleasure to get to know people, to learn from the experts, because again, I'm not there yet. I want to learn and hear what's actually happening on the ground. So I'd love to connect and discuss what's possible.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Melanie. And I am also looking forward to see where this big vision takes you, and also to know what is possible with you. Thank you.
So the first part of that, Guerdah, is I'm going to South Africa in January. So people can follow me on my YouTube channel here on Gaining Vision with Melanie Taddeo-Nxumalo. I'm going to have lots of YouTube videos just outlining and highlighting my excursions, going and connecting with people and learning from people. I've got some different excursions set up. I'm going to go meet with some of the schools I've connected with, some of the organizations, and to really have conversations with people in South Africa about disability and how we can create a more inclusive community and culture in different places.
Yes, and looking forward to the adventure. Is there one last thing you would like people to know?
I would, thank you. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because then you can get notifications of whenever I upload new videos, because it's going to be often on my adventure in South Africa. And keep in mind that inclusion is a way of life. I choose to live my life from that outlook. Can you imagine if all of us were able to look at inclusion as a way of life? What a beautiful world it would be.
Absolutely. Inclusion is the way of life. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Guerdah, for the opportunity, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time.
Bye.